Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Who Dat Jedi podcast. This is episode 199. Oh my goodness, guys. We are ever so closely to a milestone. This is weird. Yeah, I'm Aaron, and with me as always are the other members of the Who Dat Jedi Council, Dave and Fredo. How are we doing, guys?
Doing all right. 200. There's pressure there. We got to live up to 200.
By the way, I want to share this with one of our former guests on the show was my niece Alexis. Long time ago. Remember, she's a big prequel fan. And she sent me a text. First of all, these are the kinds of texts I get from my niece. Is there any sound more perfect than binary sunset? I don't think so. That's the kind of text I get from my niece. And I asked her, I said, what do you think about the Acolyte? She said, I'm really intrigued so far. I like more than I didn't. The main nitpick I had was one of the episodes felt like it ended really abruptly. And this is what she said. I'm curious to listen to the next Who Dat to get yours, Dave, and Fredo's takes. To be honest, yours are the only takes I currently care about. I've been dealing with increasingly divisive opinions within my circles, and it shouldn't be this exhausting after one day. So, while I didn't love everything I saw and certain story choices didn't make sense to me, we still have much to go on, and I'm still genuinely excited to see where they take things. There were so many subtle things throughout both episodes that had me questioning and theorizing in a way that I haven't done with Star Wars in a while. Choices that the characters made or didn't make that had me spinning in a good way if it's paid off well. So, setting just our opinions, our Star Wars opinions mean the most to my niece right now. So, I don't know.
I've got good news for her. That is the topic of tonight's show.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, so we're going to talk about it. And Alexis, we're going to talk about the dumb things that people are upset about after 2 episodes of The Acolyte. And first of all, I do want to say, just on a total aside, happy Pride to everybody out there. So yeah, tonight we are going to be talking about The Acolyte. We got 2 episodes, and another one drops here in 20 minutes, guys. So we got to wrap this up quick. But we're recording this on Tuesday night, everybody. So we can't talk about episode 3, but that's all right. Something for us to do next time.
I'm gonna have an audio clip ready to just insert into the middle of this conversation. Forget about everything that we say from timestamp X to timestamp Y, because there's a really good chance a lot of this stuff's going to be really outdated soon. But
yeah,
wrong, sir, wrong.
You know what? It's fun anyway.
I'm trying to think. Are there any random? There's no big Saints news, except I saw Alvin Kamara in uniform and running around a field today, so that makes you happy. I got a really random question, because my sister was here visiting this weekend, and we were wondering, did we cut Mike Thomas, or are we going to cut Mike Thomas, or I haven't heard anything official.
He is no longer in the squad, I believe. Hold on a second, I'll tell you.
Fredo is the king of Googling things. I'm the king of asking questions that could be Googled, and Fredo just Googles them.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So, technically speaking, Michael Thomas is still in the books until June 1st.
Well,
so
past
just
June
until
1st.
10 days ago. Right. At which point they could cut him, or the two, he's left his home in Metairie, and so the expectation is the Saints are not going to bring him back. On that topic, I was at Black and Gold Sports last weekend over in Metairie, and you could get yourself last year's pro NFL Michael Thomas jersey for under $60.
Ooh.
30 if you're willing to go for one of the smaller sizes, or one of the lower quality ones. But even the fancy printed stuff was like
all I know
$50.
is we've got 3 Saints pop figures here. One is Drew Brees, one is Mike Thomas, and one is Alvin Kamara. So I'm hoping that, we haven't jinxed anything by having those 3. So, Alvin, you got to stick around for a while. So anyway.
He's, so they might be trying to trade him, or there might be an additional.
You're talking Michael Thomas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there might be a contract reason to wait another few days for whatever reason. But maybe they're trying to trade him and get something back in return. But I think everybody knows that when he went scorched earth the way that he did, like few players have ever gone that hard in the paint on their way out of town. So
Yeah.
like it's just
On
all semantics.
on the bright side, though, today they interviewed, because I believe it's OTAs that they're having, they'd interview Marshawn Lattimore. He said he's no interest in being traded. He's no interest in going anywhere. The only thing he wants is to go back and show people he's a number one cornerback.
Well,
So, hey,
it's I'm sorry. In the off season, sports writers need stupid things to hot takes to get people to listen to their podcast episodes, like complaining that there's fire in space. So that was a little foreshadowing here. But anyway, cool. All right. Well, hey, well, let's get into the Star Wars stuff and do some trivia. Oh, by the way, hold on. Before we do trivia, okay, it's not in your news rundown. HasLab announced their latest thing. Have you seen it? It's Star Wars Cantina. It's a
Mm.
I did
cantina
see it. I
set,
did see it.
and it's like 3 foot by 3 foot. And I am so very the others that have gone by since the sail barge have been like meh, 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 meh. This one I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool, and I'm just like, I don't have room for it. I don't know where I'd put it, but I'm still really tempted. So anyway, take a look at it on HasLab. They do good stuff, and it's really cool looking.
Time to get a new display case.
Yeah, time to get a bigger boat. All right, Fredo, to you. Which Ewok steals a speeder bike to distract Imperial forces at Endor's control bunker?
Hey,
Which Ewok steals a speeder bike to distract Imperial forces at Endor's control bunker? I think I know the answer to this.
I don't, so I'm just going to guess that it's Wicked, even though I know it's not.
Dave, do you have an idea?
I don't remember which Ewok it was. I really don't. Yeah, I can't tell you.
So I think it's Tebow. Oh, no, Paplu.
Paplu.
Tebow played quarterback for Florida. Okay. Uh,
Yeah, right.
he knelt before he got on the speeder bike. All right, so
and Corch Urban Myers.
yeah.
Urban Myers.
So everybody, Paplu. You just learned something new today.
Tim Tebow.
All right. Well, man, from Fredo got a curveball inside here, and now Dave, you
Hmm.
get just a lofty softball. Who dismisses the Force as quote simple tricks and nonsense? Who dismisses the Force as quote simple tricks and nonsense?
Han Solo.
It is. My favorite, one of my favorite bits in the Family Guy Star Wars episode was when he says to, he says that he goes, "Nah, you guys sound nuts," and then Chris says, "You don't believe in the Force, do you?" And then Peter says, "Oh, you mean that thing you just learned about 2 hours ago, and now you're criticizing me for?" Anyway, plot hole. Okay, to me. Whose complaint about the cold on Hoth led R2D2 to switch on the thermal heaters, leading to melted walls and soggy clothes? Whose complaint about cold on Hoth led R2D2 to switch on the thermal heaters, leading to melted walls and soggy clothes? That would be C3PO. I was almost going to say Princess Leia because it was her quarters where things started to melt, right?
Right.
So it's almost a tricky one. All right. Well, news time.
So let's start from last week. Let's start with the easiest one. Happy birthday belatedly to Kathleen Kennedy. She celebrated her birthday on June 5th. So could have been last Wednesday. Not revealing what her age is because you don't do that. That's disrespectful. So just happy birthday, Kathleen. Hope all the people who love you got your presents. All the people that don't like you stayed away.
Here, here.
We'll move right quick to from that to just I don't know if you guys have seen any of this online. Star Wars Hunters was released last week. It's one of those free to play games, or you basically um, you download it for free, and then you play for a little bit with some characters. If you want to play a few more characters or get better in this arena style combat, third person combat, you pay to
So
buy
so
packs or whatever.
it's the South Park episode where they say freemium is Latin for not really.
Exactly. It's their version of like Fortnite or
Yeah.
any of these other games, but it's arena what, it's an arena style combat game. And, hey, with not much else happening video game wise, this is where they're going, So
Have you guys
I know
played?
some. Mhm,
Have you guys
I have
played it?
no, I have not, but it was reasonably well reviewed. I just wanted
mhm.
to say
But
that.
yeah, I think in terms of the overall freemium, whatever, the mechanics are good, gameplay was good. It's it's not photorealistic; it's very much in a cartoon style, but that's really good.
So here's something that we might talk about more in depth in another
Mm-hmm.
episode: is how you guys feel. I mean, you're bigger gamers than me, but try to step out of your gamer, um, you know, take your gamer hat off for a second. And because I saw an article about how they're expanding, I can't remember which character, one character's story via a video game. How do you feel about video games being a a method of Star Wars storytelling, and you know, is it is there enough to actually propel a story forward? Like I said, maybe just quick thoughts, real quick.
Off the top of my head, yes, because we just seen it recently with Cal Kestis in the Jedi Star Wars Jedi stories. Fallen Order, Survivor, the future third game that's going to come
So the
out.
only way
So
that I can get that story though right now is if I go on YouTube and find all the cutout
let's
scenes. Is that
play
right?
right. Or the let's play videos of people playing it and following along. But yes, that is um, what you call it. That is the limitation is if you're not a gamer. But then again, I mean, the High Republic is 99% or 95% a reading
Mm-hmm.
medium delivery. So if you don't like to read books, you don't know anything
But
about the High Republic except what you just
but
seen
I pitch it
the last couple of weeks.
but I pitch it to Dave for your response here, because what I'm going to say, it's like that last part of it. I mean, like a comic book series or a book, there's a lot of real estate to tell a lot of story there. Does a video game have enough, I guess, field to get a story moving forward or to create a story?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it can. Uh, Fredo listed off a few examples, and then of course the big one is Knights of the Old Republic. And we're going to get to that here in a second. There's a little bit of news about that, but yeah, the it's not anything that I'm opposed to. Now, it there are considerations at play wherein, and again, like this has been the case for decades now, so this is not new, but like there are exclusive deals. This software only releases on this platform and not the other platforms. And if you have the other platform, you're SOL. Um, and so there's a little bit of that at play with that too. And I think like everyone should probably have the opportunity to experience the story if they want to. And yet that's not going to necessarily be the case because again, like somebody may own an Xbox and not a PlayStation or a Switch. Maybe they're on a PC and it's not released on the PC. Um, and I think like that's where it begins to become a little bit more problematic because you sort of like cut off part of your audience. And I guess I understand the business
Hmm.
side of that, which is like, oh well, we'll get, because it's an exclusive to our system, we'll get people to come buy our system, and that's why they do those sorts of things. But um,
I don't.
I don't like a story like this that might be sort of important, impactful, um, really just critical to the, like an overarching narrative, kind of behind a sort of paywall, if you will.
Yeah,
And that's
I don't necessarily know how I feel about it. It was just something that
mhm.
was in my head. I thought I'd say it out loud and kind of a good pot stirrer, question. Um,
I mean, a book is a book. It's $20, right?
right.
I mean, $30 now, but um,
But my, it was kind of like one of the criticisms of Rise of Skywalker is the whole premise of it was based on something that happened in Fortnite, right? And everybody was like,
That's
"What was this? Palpatine speaking to people? What?" And then Luke has a compass that apparently he got in, I think,
one of the novels, maybe.
no, I can't remember. I thought it was another video game that he got,
Oh, yeah,
like
that's right.
the
From
compass. So I mean,
Battlefront 2.
I don't mind Easter eggs and stuff like that, but it's like to understand where the next chapter of the story is going, you have to play Fortnite. It's kind of like I don't know. It's starting to become like a quest of sorts, you know.
well, these cross marketing gimmicks have been around for a long time. I'm going back through the old Atari games now, and there was an old series of games for the Atari that was like that, where it was like you got to read the comic book, you got to solve the puzzles within the game, and if you do all these things, you get entered into your name into a hat, basically, and they drew names out of a hat, and these are the five grand champions that advance to the next game and the next thing, the next quest, if you will. And so it was like this massive treasure hunt thing. And so like this kind of thing has been around for a while, but like I said, I think like if there's a significant buy-in for people, it's like I got to go out and buy, a $600 video game system to play the game that itself is $80, and then I'm caught up. I think like that's a barrier.
Well, like I said,
Yeah.
thank God for people on Twitch. So sorry, I didn't mean to totally derail us there, but that was just kind of interesting. So
No, no, no. And like I said, it's something we can go back to and discuss further as the reality is this is the way that it's going to be with us, Disney, because they don't want to just give you one line of storytelling. They want to hit you multiple ways. Speaking of multiple ways and storylines, the Writers Guild of America directory revealed the writing duties for season two of Andor, which is coming next year. So that tells you basically, much like last season, the first season, they've broken season two into four 3 episode arcs, with Tony Gilroy writing the first 3 episodes, Bo Willimon, who wrote the Narkina 5 arc, writing the fourth, fifth, and sixth episode. By the way, he's also co writing the Dawn of the Jedi movie with James Mangold. Dan Gilroy, Tony's brother, is writing episodes 7 through 9. He wrote the Aldani arc in season one. And then what's interesting is the final 3 episodes, the ones that are going to finally connect Andor to Rogue One, is being written by Tom Bissell, who wrote The Disaster Artist and several of the Games of Gear, I mean, sorry, I'm sorry, Gears of War video games. So it's interesting that it's not Tony Gilroy, because Tony Gilroy last time did the first 3 episodes and the last 3 episodes of season one. But in this instance, he's only doing the beginning of season two.
on a related note,
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't in our notes either. By the way, Daisy Ridley was on this week's episode of Smartless,
Mm-hmm.
and next week, by the way, kids, is John Williams. So listen to Smartless. But anyway, Daisy Ridley said that they are probably going to be starting filming for the Ray movie next year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's what written by Stephen Knight and being directed by uh,
Uh,
Charmin Obad Chinoy. Pardon my
Yep.
mispronunciation there, but anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting to hear. She said most likely next year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. A few weeks ago, because she's out doing promotion for her upcoming movie,
yeah, the
and they had
young woman.
asked,
Oh, I thought she's doing Young Woman in the Sea, but maybe I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah, that one, that one. But so they've been interviewing her, and she kind of said, "Yeah, I'm waiting on the script," and then seems like that is her next project, and she's working, probably doing all the pre-production stuff. I mean, stunts and training and all the other stuff you got to do to get ready to be on set, which is awesome. I mean, hey, hopefully we'll be getting back to Star Wars movies pretty soon.
Well, let's have our
So
last
let's,
news story here. That'll get us into our main topic of the Acolyte. So
so yeah, so two quick things regarding Leslie Headland. First of all, she was being interviewed in a French uh, publication, and IGN caught a wind of it, and so they asked her if she would be interested in adapting any other Star Wars, making another Star Wars movie beyond or property beyond the Acolyte. And she said what really fascinated her was there's a character in Knights of the Old Republic 2, which Dave, did you ever play that game?
No, I have not. Those are
Okay.
high on my to-do list, the two of those games.
Yeah, so if you ever played Knights of the Republic 2, there's a character called Kreia, who is this very morally ambiguous, very complex character. And what's interesting is that's who Leslie Headland, focuses on. She says, I've always wanted to explore a live action version of Knights of the Old Republic and Kreia's character. I think it would be really interesting to bring to life. So, because Knights of the Republic takes place 4,000 years before the events of the original trilogy. So it has in no way, shape, or form connected to anything that we see. But it's an interesting that she's not focusing on Darth Revan or any of the other characters from those games, but she's focusing on the morally ambiguous and complex character that might be good, might be bad. So kind of makes me wonder if that's where we're going to be headed with the Acolyte. And then last bit of news on the Acolyte. Last week, Variety reports that Disney has stated in its first 5 days, the Acolyte got 11.1 million views. Well, the number one show for them in 2024 so far. Still didn't do as much as Ahsoka did last year, but it seems like the reception was good.
so yeah, just real quick, let's let's just have a little bit of fun with this and just shoot down the stupid things. What are the dumb things that people are mad about? Like I said, one this is after 2 episodes, everybody. 2 episodes, and people are mad about. Let's see here. I know that we're mad about. There's a fire in space, um, and
Can I talk about that right quick? Did
go
these
ahead.
people not see episode one?
Well, did you not see Star Wars with TIE fighters blowing up in space? I mean, yeah, and
No, but I'm saying even if you just want to leave it to the idea of fire in space while you're outside working on the ship, the first time we meet R2D2 is when
yeah.
the Naboo cruiser gets hit, and what happens?
Well,
There's fire in
and I love
space.
it. George Lucas said, "There's fire in space if I need there to be fire in space." Uh, so, yeah, what's okay? So, other things that they're upset about, they are upset that there is a trans actor in the cast who hasn't even been in an episode yet, but still, regardless, they're mad about. They've been waiting to be mad about these things. That's just flipping ridiculous. The let's see, they're also mad. Um,
They're mad about the heavier set Jedi. I saw that.
Yeah, and they're also mad that they're the only, like in the first episode, the only white people was the guy who was in prison, and it's just, I mean, yeah, how dare you have a diverse cast? We've talked about that before, but they're mad about that. Um, they're also mad about the characters, with the exception of everybody seems to like what Amanda Stenberg has brought, and also JJ as Master Soul, and they
Regional J, yeah.
they've all like apparently that's his nickname is JJ. So, but anyway, but they said all the other characters are wooden. I'm just like, we haven't had time to develop the other characters. Can we just calm down? Um, so anyway, what other dumb things have people been complaining about?
Those are some of the bigger ones. I mean, the director herself, what her intentions might be. There was a plot synopsis for episode 3 that got a lot of people up in arms. I'm happily oblivious to what those details might have been, because I'm waiting to watch the show.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, just a lot of angst and anger, and um, a lot of it seems to be less than authentic in its intent. I mean, like if we're gonna go down this road, we can go down this road, and I'll kick it off with the the lack of white characters, the entire premise of the show. And I think like part of the reason that people are upset about where episode 3 goes is that the Jedi are super,
or super what you cut out there.
oh, they're super flawed. They're not perfect. They make mistakes. There are issues there. Um, if you're
That's the
a
point.
racist,
Sorry.
for lack of a better term, wouldn't you be happy that the Jedi are flawed but not homogeneously white? I The logic of all of this really begins to break down. It's like we're just complaining about things to complain about them. And I see through that. I understand why that gets the volume that it does.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. People are entitled to feel how they want to feel about the show in a vacuum. And I think like the discussion points aren't about the actual merit of the show at this stage of things because we're 2 episodes.
Yeah. I mean,
You can't evaluate.
no. Um, so I guess maybe that's we can just jump into. So now that's like I said, that's the stupid stuff aside. And so I guess we had. What are your initial thoughts after 2 episodes? I can kick that one off. Um,
Go for it.
I enjoyed it more the second time I watched episodes 1 and 2 than I did the first two. Because I think it was one of those things like when I was watching The Last Jedi on when I had my painkillers from my surgery and I was asking myself, am I enjoying this movie? It's like I was watching The Acolyte going, am I enjoying this? And the second time around, I enjoyed it far more. So I would, if you were kind of on the fence, I would highly recommend watching them again. It's really enjoyable the second time around. The It feels a little like NCIS Coruscant, which maybe that's what it's supposed to, but it's that ensemble cast, you know, cop detective show is what's going on, you know. Um, so, but that's kind of fun, you know, and I like not having any idea of what's like I said after 2 episodes. The only thing we know is that there are twins, May and Ashla. Um, and so, like I said, I really love Master Soul. I've seen people compare him to Qui Gon Jinn. I think that is accurate.
That's
Um,
by design.
there are some things that that just kind of make me go, kind of, It's kind of like when who is the Jedi Master? The I can't remember.
Which one?
I'm trying to get the names, but the green lady. Um,
Oh, what's the name? Vanessa? Yes,
yes.
Vanessa Wall.
Anyway, she walks into the training room where Master Soul has the little kids, and she uses the Force to open the door. Like, don't you have just automatic doors? But anyway, um, I will say this. Like I said, first of all, I want to say everybody, I enjoy it. These are just little things that like dumb little things that pop into Aaron's head. Does not ruin the whole thing for me. It just makes me go, oh, that's interesting. But I will say I was so excited to see something new in Star Wars, and it really didn't. Nothing stood out as like different and new. It looked like Star Wars, which maybe that's a good thing, you know. But I couldn't tell really that this was 100 years before the Phantom Menace. And again, I'm not saying that as a critical thing. I'm saying that was me setting up my expectations. And of course, then I started thinking about, well, okay, Aaron, you're sitting there saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see something new." Well, guess what? You got to see something new when the Force Awakens and Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker came out. You got to see something new when, the prequels came out. So there's always been, new eras, that we haven't seen before. I don't know why I was so like, yay, we get to see something that we've never seen before. It's like, well, yeah, the other two, same thing. So, I enjoyed the storytelling. I think it's fun. I enjoy the characters so far. Yeah, they've said, like I said, the other characters are wooden, but I think that's going to come around. Anyway, so that's just my little rambling garbage. Dave, what about you?
I appreciate that you were bringing up some of the smaller points that you would critique, because like I think like that's the danger that you get into with these discussions at this point. It's like there's so much hate and vile venom spewed at this stuff that you feel compelled to defend it, and then you can't even begin to talk about the flaws or some of the things about it that you'd like to see that were different, because you're like, well, now I'm siding with the sides of the racists,
Yeah.
um and the homophobes and whatnot. So like, yeah, I appreciate that we're able to go down that road a little bit. I'll say this: I I'm worried that it's going to be too predictable. We're as far as these murder mysteries go, a lot of the time, well, I don't want to spoil anything, right? Because like we all have our own theories, right? But like to me, there's a giant flashy neon sign right now that says like this could unfold a certain way, and I will be disappointed if it does. Um, I also say that um, it's mostly really good and fun so far. Like that, like you know, if I have any critique, it's like I'm worried about where it might go, but that doesn't mean that it actually will go to those places. Um, we're what we for judging it based on what we've gotten so far. I really like it. Um, I like most of the main characters that we've been introduced to. Um, I do think Manla is just really on point. Um, and that's not an easy thing to do. Again, like we're not spoiling anything at this point for anybody who's watched episode 1 of this show. You know that she's playing two characters.
Yeah, they came out right away.
Yeah.
And what's interesting though is that like she is credited like in all the stuff leading up to it. It was she was playing May, and then of course now yes we know it's Osha and May.
Both. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, they took that where people were speculating like they were going to put numbers down in Vegas that there was that it was she was playing two different people, and they just what first 5 minutes it was obvious. So anyway, keep going.
I do think they telegraphed a little bit that not that reveal, but enough people had figured it out that I'm glad they got it out of the way. And then I also feel like they telegraphed that Carrie Ann Moss was going to die quickly. Um, and um,
That was the other
so I
thing
went,
that people were really upset about. That here
yeah,
we you killed Trinity too soon. It's like if you watch the trailer, you're going to get more of her because there are more scenes that we have not seen yet. If there's footage they had in the
yeah,
trailer, but even so, it's like okay, so how many episodes would have made you happy? You know, would five have been good? Would you have been okay with three if we killed her off in three? It's like, I mean, man, people were less mad that Luke Skywalker was only in 30 seconds of The Force Awakens than people are about Trinity getting killed in the first episode of The Acolyte. It's like, anyway,
That falls into my main critique though as well, which I think like they may be telegraphing things a little too well and things are a little bit too predictable in general. Um but like again, so far that's a little bit off base because we just don't know where the main story is going to take us. Like we just don't know yet. I'm worried about it. Um but by and large I'm enjoying it.
Fredo,
So yeah, I mean, off the offset, I'm enjoying the show for what it is. I'm letting it just kind of tell its story. And I think sometimes, a lot of times, the difficulty with us as fans, us as the audience, is we are more cognizant of what's going on in the universe. We know more about their world than they know because their characters live in it. We've read ahead. We know what the future holds. So sometimes that can be quite a moment to kind of distance yourself from because you go, well, we know that 100 years from now, the republic's going to fall, the empire's going to rise, so forth and so forth. So sometimes you almost got to go, okay, just take the story as it is. It's telling you a story. There's a mystery here. And what I love about the mystery is that everybody thought, okay, is the mystery going to be how is it that May and Osha are, who's the real one, what's going on? And then, no, they're twins. They settled that at the outset, and I appreciated that because now clearly the mystery is what the heck happened to them that resulted in both sisters thinking that each other that the other one had died
I
because
love the
that's now the mystery.
I love the fact that they even have a character. They have Master Venestra, if that's the name. I hope
Hmm.
so. Saying,
Yeah.
yeah, it obviously can't be her because she's with, OSHA's with you, and this other
Mm-hmm.
person did it, while she was in your. I mean, so they actually literally told you that they can't be the same character. I just absolutely love that. Keep going, Fredo.
But do you have to say, I mean, in some ways you kind of do have to spell it out, just because sometimes I think if you don't spell it out for the audience, they think, well, they don't know that. It's like, no, they knew that. They're not dummies, but you're more aware of some of the stuff that's going on than some of the characters are. It's one of the difficulties in fiction writing is, when you're an omniscient reader, you will always have more information than the characters in the story you're reading. Um, that said, like I said, I'm enjoying it. The fact that, hey, even for the little bit of that we got of Carrie Ann Moss at the beginning, just the idea of using hand-to-hand force combat never occurred to me. It makes perfect sense. It's like, why has nobody thought, yeah, let's combine some of that wire fu, Eastern kung fu classic stuff with the idea of the Force. I love the fact that they're setting some kind of stakes for May kill these four Jedi Masters without using a lightsaber, because again, there's a connection. Everybody knows there's a connection between Force users and lightsabers, so something's going on there. They're setting up a whole bunch of little mysteries, which I appreciate. While in the meantime, yes, it does feel a bit like NCIS, like a procedural, but I think that's more than anything because it's an easy language for people to kind of get into. Like it's like, okay, just slide in and just think of it's a mystery, and then at some point there might be a rug being pulled from underneath your feet, and you find out that the story is something else altogether. Character wise, I think everybody's nailing their characters. Even the ones that everybody goes, they're wooden. No, you almost have to think of these less like Qui-Gon Jinn or you or Obi-Wan Kenobi. These are more like cops. They're more the keepers of the peace. So they're very stoic and very serious, and they don't smile. They don't crack jokes. They're not Anakin Skywalker, and that's going to be one of the hardest parts I think, where people kind of bitch and complain about this not being like the real Star Wars. It goes back to that concept of we want somebody to be the wise ass of the group. We want somebody to be Han Solo or Poe Dameron to be cracking a joke in the middle of a serious moment. These characters in this environment are not going to do that. So that's where you're going to struggle because people wanted to, they want something new, but they wanted to fit what what they've seen before, and that you can't balance that. So
Can I
I'm
jump
okay
off
with
of
two.
that
Go
too
for it.
briefly? Because that was one of the pieces of critique that I saw this week, which was specific, which was that there's no real entry point for the common person, right? Because like when the original trilogy, you had Luke Skywalker, and like he's your sort of entry point into this crazy universe, and you're also grounded by the fact that Han Solo's there too, non-believer. It all sort of, you get kind of pulled into this whole crazy fantastical setting through that sort of ground level person that you can relate to. um and like his critique was like, this has been a problem with Star Wars for a long time now. Like Disney screws it up Star Wars, and it's because they don't have that anymore. And I'm like, well, maybe not this show. um, but Ray was like the exact same character as Luke, like just the same thing. And then, you know, Poe and Finn were the same way. And then if you think about Cassian and Andor, and like there's a lot there's a lot of that going on in Star Wars, right? This series is definitely different in that regard. It is not that. You're getting pulled, you're getting thrown into the deep end. If you're not already invested in some of this stuff, you might be like, what is going on? Why are these people so weird? Why do they talk the way that they do? And they're so serious, and there's no humor, and I can't relate to any of this. And I, I could understand that, but I also feel like that's not us, or at least that's not most of the people that are watching this. Most of the people that are watching this are Star Wars fans already. And so, like, for me, I can step back from that and say, I don't mind that because it is different.
It'd be interesting to get report from my in-laws to see if they're watching this and what they think. So,
Mm.
I was gonna say just right quick to kind of Dave's point. He's right. I mean, this is more. If you ever watch any of the PBS stream murder mysteries, when they would show the old BBC, Sherlock Holmes or any of those BBC's limited series where you have murder mystery, whatever. That's what this feels like. Like this is more like if you got those serious, stoic British actors from theater and put them in a Star Wars setting, which is as Star Wars as it gets, because that's who was there at the
uh,
beginning. But it's just
like I said, we're
there's no winking and wisecracking American character in the middle.
I don't mean this like I said, I didn't mean it as a diss, but
Mhm.
it is very much NCIS Coruscant. It's
Mhm.
that style of show. Now they did drop a big clue, I think, that we all need to pay more attention to that I don't think is getting enough attention, and that's that little poem that Osha and May say together. It said, "You're with me, I'm with you, always one, but born as two. As above sits the stars and below lies the sea, I give you you and you give me me." I have no idea what they're talking about there, but I think that's something that we all need to sit and stew on to see what is this connection, because I think that was a big, you know, I'm gonna give you a little something here. I don't know, when you guys heard that, what were your thoughts? Because she had a vision of young May. Osha did had a vision of young May. So that
Are,
it's very weird. I mean, I don't
yeah.
know if this is a force vision. Are they a dyad in the force? Are we going to are we going to revisit that from the Rise of Skywalker? I don't know. What did you guys make of that interaction between those two and like I said, that little poem?
I go back to what Fredo said, which was really interesting to me. That the interesting part of this is that they didn't know that the other was alive. And we could tell um, from Osha's perspective that, of course, she didn't think her sister was alive. This was very well established over the course of the first two episodes. Um, but May also didn't think that her sister was, and that was a
Well,
bit really big reveal when it occurred.
and I don't want to get too into
You
the,
know,
too much into the speculation stuff, but I mean, it's also interesting that when Master Soul is having his little lesson with the younglings and everybody's like, close your eyes, what do you see? And everybody's like, puppy dogs and unicorns, fire. I see fire. And, and he doesn't know anything about OSHA and May at this point, but it's concerning to him. So I'm wondering, is this going to be like, did it, where Luke sensed the dark side in Ben
Right.
Solo and almost took him out? Did the four Jedi decide, oh man, this one is, bad news, and they
right.
tried to snuff her out? And is that what they're, because they're dealing with, these Jedi are dealing with tremendous amount of guilt, at least one of them who put himself in timeout for 10 years. Um,
And then
so
killed himself.
Right, then killed himself. So there's something going on there. Like I said, I maybe that is the, and did they snuff out the wrong one on accident is what I'm wondering. It's like because they're twins and it's like, oh,
I like my whole theory with that wasn't necessarily that. Well, yes, in a lot of ways, right? That the idea that maybe they had the opportunity to save them both and rescue them both, and they only picked the one because she didn't start the fire, and they could see the anger in the other one, and they could see the writing on the wall, and they dictated her future for her. Like, you're a bad egg. We know you're going to be a bad egg, and we're writing you off. And I think like that is very, very likely. The question becomes like, what is the actual sin? Was it that they just left her there? Was it that they tried to offer? Was it something worse that we haven't discovered
well,
yet?
and the Jedi are using their powers in a different way than we've seen. They're stepping right into the Nemoidians and like just controlling their brain. Or Master Soul was reading May's thoughts, you know, against her will. Very much what Kylo was doing with Rey. So they're doing all these things that eventually, when we get to the prequel era, you don't do those things. I don't. So I'm wondering again. And there was in the High Republic, apparently there was like what they call wayfinders. Is that or is that right? Is that the right phrase? Um, but anyway,
Yeah.
it's like they just wherever the force takes them, that's what they do. They don't adhere to a strict rules here, there, or the other. So I'm wondering, like I said, are they, the force is telling me we got to get rid of this kid? Anyway, there's something there with that poem. I just think it's kind of interesting. We have no idea right now, so everybody, it's like we'll talk more about this after the last episode and see where everything came down. But that
It
was
just
a big
it's
clue hit over the head with.
it, yeah, it screams the Russian Doll, which is Leslie Headland's last show, where you have this mystery at the heart of the show, and then you get dropped off little bits and pieces of information. And again, it's much a puzzle as it is a mystery to solve. It's that there's stuff going on you have to solve in order to figure out everything. Because you're right. I mean, what's interesting is this: from what little we know of what's happened, something tragic happened on, I think it's like Braddock,
Mm-hmm.
I believe is the name of their home planet. Something there happened almost 14, 15 years prior. Those four Jedi Masters were involved, two of which are now no longer with us. One, which more likely where we're going to go next, and one is the one that's chasing May. But whatever happened, it was so total that neither May knew of OSHA, nor or the Jedi Masters knew of May. As far as they knew, OSHA was the only survivor of that tragedy, whatever it was. So it makes you wonder what exactly was the tragedy? Was the tragedy that Ocean made did something they shouldn't? Was the tragedy that the Jedi were doing something that they shouldn't? When they found two force
Yeah,
sensitive kids.
I mean,
you
they're
know,
saying that one of the kid, what they said, May started a fire. Yeah, like you said. So
just but
there's,
it's clearly that's not the whole story
yeah,
because otherwise, that feels more like a nice way to cover everything up because May started a fire and killed her parents and killed herself. Osha, you're the only one left alive, and then Saul takes you under his wing. I'm sorry, until you decide not to be a Jedi.
you know,
But
it'll be interesting because like I said, we see the Jedi. Um, by the time we get to the prequels, the Jedi are, we have strict rules. They start using the word dogma a lot of the Jedi, um, and it seems to me that um, maybe whatever this is kind of the catalyst to, you know, create those rules that we eventually, because it's like maybe the Jedi are getting too out of hand or something. I don't know. Um,
Though some of those rules are there already, and I go back to the one of the scenes that I really liked, which was his Padawan questioning him about his emotional attachment
yeah,
to his previous student, and how he talked about like, well, you see, if you don't learn from your past, you're doomed to repeat it. And I thought that that was a really insightful thing to say, and it was a convenient thing for him to say too, because like, yeah, he does have an emotional attachment there.
yeah.
Um, so there's a lot going on in that scene, which is really, really kind of fun. But like, yeah, that hints at those sorts of moral guidelines are there. Um, but it, I get the impression that they weren't necessarily sanctioned in whatever it was that they did, and I think that that can account for shame and why you see that tangibly. Um, Certainly from the guy who was in exile and ended up killing himself, but um, also from our main from Soul here
Hmm.
too. Like it's just like all over his face. Um, and I don't think that's just all about um, maybe coming up short as a master, which you could chalk it up to. But again, I think there's more going on there. And um, if they feel shame, if they feel regret, if they feel they didn't do the right thing, it's one of two things, right? It's that they did adhere to a Jedi code that made them do something they thought was wrong, um, or they didn't live up to the standard that they think they should.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that as well, because when you watch the way Amanda Stenberg plays May when she's going after those two Jedi, there's there's she's playing it off. She's portraying that this is something she doesn't necessarily want to do. There's some trembling there. There's some, so it's almost like a gang initiation type of a deal that's going on here. So that's going to be kind of interesting. All right, so I know we have on our notes here, who is the master, who's the Sith guy, or have no idea. There's no way you can even begin to speculate at this time. I think I don't know. What, you got something, Fredo?
no, I was gonna say, yeah, we already got speculation out there because by what we know canon-wise, this is the time of Darth Tenebris, and maybe a young Darth Plagueis the Wise before he becomes the Wise. So it gets interesting. I mean, I love the idea, and we didn't get to talk too much about it, but at the end of the first episode, the idea of how do you kill the Jedi? You can't kill them with weapons. You kill the dream. You kill the idea that the Jedi are invincible. Um, it just made me think back to episode one when Anakin says that nobody can kill a Jedi, and Qui-Gon goes, "I wish that were true."
Well, and that was the thing
Because
that drove
that
me
so
crazy.
that
I mean,
that element
go ahead,
mhm.
go ahead.
So that element of the Jedi being seen as these all powerful, walking on water, almost demigods, almost like they're above, they're above the rest of the galaxy. So
but
I
that
love the idea that he's that. Anyway, long story short, the idea that May's working to try to be the apprentice of the apprentice.
so okay, so that's two. There's two things there. One, I mean, first of all, I don't think he was. I mean, he's talking obviously Jedi in the umbrella sense, not in the
Yes.
actual person there. People were
Hmm.
taking that line far too literally.
Right.
That was something that drove me bonkers. The other thing though is that it's interesting that they're calling her the acolyte because we are, if it is, I mean, we are in the rule of two here,
Hmm.
but we saw in the Clone Wars that Dooku
Okay.
had Ventress, who was a Sith assassin. She was not. They're not calling her a Sith apprentice. They're not. They're calling her an acolyte. So I think that means whoever this dude is, yeah, is the apprentice. Um, but I don't know. Like I said, I just don't know. So
Right.
I think there's two really strong um, alter ego candidates early on, and I think like that's intentional. They when a story of this nature, you introduce a bunch of people early on so that there's a list of suspects essentially because it's a murder mystery. You're trying to figure out who done it, and
it's
so
Knives Out. Yeah.
yeah, there's certain individuals already that have emerged as front runners for the title of who is the dark side guy. Um, um, Yord, everyone's favorite. Uh, that
Hashtag your horde.
yeah, I think that would be way too obvious, and I would be disappointed if it were him, because it just like I said, there's a flashing sign over this guy's head, but um, also the unsavory type that she was hanging out with, like who
Uh,
who played at being sort of a weakling, he may not be quite so weak. Um,
Premier, I believe is his name. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so again, like there's some of that going on there already. It was like, and again, I would probably be disappointed if we had the Scooby Doo reveal where this the mask comes off and it's like, oh, it's really so and so. Um, but I, this is the kind of story they're telling. I mean, it is a mystery, and we are trying to figure out who done it,
Yeah.
and so like, yeah, in this kind of story, I would forgive it. I'll allow it. It'll be okay. But I don't want it to be, I guess, too predictable. If we have a few twists and turns along the way, I would really appreciate that, and it would be really kind of fun to see um, really where how these relationships are going to develop, and over time, you're going to your thoughts are just going to sort of naturally drift towards um, other people as
Yeah.
being, who done it? Oh, it's so and so, because that you need sort of like the air in the room, the oxygen to just let that develop. Because again, your mind goes in these crazy places eventually if you let people do that. So that would be my hope going forward. But um, I the initiation stuff, is it too on the nose? I mean, again, like, oh, you literally can't use a weapon to kill this Jedi, and it's like because Jedi as a notion cannot be killed, and it's like I get what you're saying, dude, without having to go through all of that, like I don't need to like kill somebody that way. It's like I get it, dude. I get it, but um
Well, I think, and this is one of the things that Leslie Edlin mentioned about how this show is going to explore the Sith, the idea of being the bad guys, and that's one of those elements that I think they want to lean to. Yeah, I mean, if you want to say, they could have given May a blaster, told her, okay, go shoot these four guys, these four Jedi Masters, be done. But I think the whole point is, you know them, you're aware of who they are, what they can do, what they've done. You need to study and find their weakness. It's similar in nature to if you remember. Game of Thrones, the faceless assassins. It's not necessarily the idea that you cannot kill them, is do it in such a way that nobody knows you did it. Because if people know you did it, then we're out in the open. And the Sith
Oh, that,
exist at the best when they're in the shadows,
Yeah.
when they are the phantoms. They are phantom menaces. They don't, you don't know they're there until they've won. And by that point, it's too late. So that's why I think she's that, they've set up these challenges for May to, because I mean, for example, if she goes toe to toe with somebody like Kelnaka, the Wookiee Jedi Master, we don't expect that she's going to have the brute strength to beat him.
and
So find
and
find a way to beat him.
there's a realism in that too, in that like she immediately gets, they figure out who she is like within like an hour. And here comes the boot, like almost immediately, like the Jedi are breathing down her neck and everyone's on top of her and they know it's her, and the walls are closing in like right away. So yeah, there's truth in that aspect of it, that yeah, they sort of need to keep to the shadows and they need to be as subtle as they can be. Um,
The other thing, the other shots that keep coming into my brain, there's twice now. It was when she was fighting Trinity and then fighting Soul. Um, the slow mo shot of her trying to get their lightsaber. That was just interesting. If it would, the first time I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Then the second time it makes me go, what's going on here? And it was pointed out also, like I can't remember. I think it was on Screen Crush that while he says, you can't kill it, you have to kill the Jedi without a weapon. You know, Master Soul was fighting her, never took out his lightsaber. You know, and really, I keep saying Trinity, just for fun, but she was pretty much doing the same thing until that, and that was the thing that kind of bothered me. It was like, you let the villain like guilt you into putting your lightsaber down. You know, that was because like a Jedi doesn't take out their lightsaber unless they're ready to kill. And she's like, oh yeah, you're right, and then knife to the chest.
Again, but then how did May kill? By the way, her name's Indara. How did she kill Master Indara? She put somebody else's life at risk.
Yeah.
And so what are the Jedi if not selfless? Let me save this other person. Boom, they're saved. And while
and I,
I'm distracted, you're dead.
but I do want to. I don't want to get again too into the nitpicks again. But that was one that the Resistance broadcast brought up that I agree with. It's like, didn't you think that a Jedi Master could multitask a little bit better than what she did? So, but anyway, well, hey, Dave's alarm has gone off, and we've got an episode to watch. Anything else for the good of the order before we sign up? Like I said, kids, we don't really know anything. We're enjoying it. So let us know what you're thinking about it. Anything you've noticed, or if you have your grand theories of who the Sith person is, we like to hear it on Twitter or X, whatever you call it now. I don't like saying X. It makes it seem like I'm going to porn. But
It just makes me think you're calling DMX, which, given that he's not with us anymore, makes it feels weird.
so, oh, and yeah. So anyway, yeah. Next time we'll be talking about episode 3, probably. Like I said, which is going on tonight. So, unless anything, like I said, Dave, Fredo, anything for the good of the order?
No.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess we'll say who dat.
Who dat?
Who dat?
And everybody have a great week and enjoy the Acolyte.
McConkey.